thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, the political dragon here in the Bronx, New York. And as you may notice, we're having one hell of a time dealing with technology this week. That was on my birthday live stream where Windows killed my main computer and we had to go to my laptop. Then Windows decided to do an update on my laptop and it's dead now too. But that's all right, I'm on my phone. And throughout this process today, uh, I have a candidate from the Bronx who is with me, Mr. Tyreek Goodman, who is with me, and he's been patient. We're a little bit behind when we were planning to start this off, but he said, let's go live, let's just do this. Don't worry about it, we'll work through the technology. So I give my appreciation to you, Tyreek.
You're welcome.
And the first thing I'll say is, Tariq, you're a candidate according to the New York Times, ABC, CBS, NBC, the news media in New York City. There is no such thing as a candidate that isn't a Democrat, apparently, in any office. Everybody who's running for anything in 2025 is all Democrats. And yet, we just went through the petitions, and you are a candidate for the city council, the
Yes.
eighth district seat. And
Yes.
so, why don't you tell the people? This may be a surprise to a lot of New Yorkers. Tell them who you are and why you're running.
So, my name is Tyreek Goodman. I'm a kid from, Bronx, New York. Well, a young man, as I say, from the Bronx, New York, born and raised. And, one of the slogans that I have is "Be the change you wish to see." And with that being said, a lot of times when we look to representation, we look for people that look exactly like us, right? And to talk like us and to speak like us. Well, we have representation in New York that mimics and looks exactly like where we're from our communities. But the thing is that I feel like there's a big information gap. So for me, getting into politics was not just, being a part of the Democratic Party. It was saying, well, you know what? Let me also open up doors for those who might not see the democratic way or who might feel like people are gatekeeping or information is not being spread. I feel like when it comes to the urban communities, we are spread too thin and always forced to pick a side when it comes to the political backing and the background per se. So for me it was about being a part of the conservative party because it puts us in the middle ground where we can work with everybody. But on top of that, a lot of people be also surprised that I'm also on the Republican line as well. And, being a conservative Republican, for me, it just brings back the value of traditional values. And we say, what is traditional values, right? And when I talk about stuff like that, it's more so based on family structure, based on believing in God, based on, believing that we can also educate our youth and take care of our community without less government control and government oversight.
Okay, that's interesting. Now we're gonna delve a little bit into a few
Yes.
of those things.
Yes. Yes.
At the same time, I want the public to know if you have a question for Tyreek Goodman, or myself, please let us know in reference to the election or any of the issues there. We're happy to see that. I'll bring that question up and we can answer it uh, because I like the interaction with the public directly, but we're going to get to that. Let me first ask you, Tyreek, by the way, how old are you?
I'm 33 years old.
Okay, so in terms of politics, you're a babe. I mean, most politicians start off like in their 40s, 50s, if not 60s, and then spend the next 3 decades in office. So
Correct.
you're young. Uh, have you ever worked in politics before?
No, no. I've been into politics for about 3 years now. And to be honest with you, me getting into politics was a learning lesson. Because at first, just like any other citizen, I didn't really care for it. I didn't believe that politics could actually shape my life or how it affects my life. We see politicians and political leaders get elected, they come and go, and what changes in our community? Nothing. So to me, I didn't have really faith into the system until I started to learn about it. And luckily, I had a good teacher. Shout out to Duran Gonzalo, who also opened the door and taught me a lot about politics and said, "Hey, listen, I understand how you feel, and you feel it seems like you have like a grudge towards them, but you don't understand why these things are not happening and why effects is not happening quickly in your community." And one of the major things that we found out was education.
Hmm.
So for prime example, at 16 you could be on a community board no matter what your criminal
Yeah.
record is. At 18 you could run for local government no matter what your criminal record is,
Right.
right? This information is not public knowledge to the youth. This information is not public knowledge, or as I say, it is public knowledge, but it's not talked about, it's not promoted, it's not in the face of the average kid. And the reason why I would say that is because we don't have a lot of our students and a lot of our graduates, we don't have retainers for them. And what I mean is that a lot of them are not coming back to help the community and build up the community. Instead, we're giving our kids to leave outside the community as if there's not nothing here for them. And there is a place for them. There's a place in our local politics. There's a place, for them to make decisions on their community inside the community boards. In order to make change, you must make it real for them, and you must give them the knowledge and the opportunity to make those changes. So that's what my candidacy is about, and that's how I pretty much shape things and how I made my decision on even getting involved into politics. Was to say, well, you know what? There's a big information gap, and unfortunately, I'm in a position where I'm able to run, I'm able to make my voice heard, but it can't just be about the status quo. It can't just be about putting myself in a good position. It has to be more than that. Because,
Okay.
yes, continue. Sorry.
No, no, I was just going to reflect back on, obviously, you're right. We don't teach civics anymore to our students. And
Correct.
so, how can we expect them to know the process to get elected, the process to be involved in the election system, picking candidates, getting the best candidate out there, running themselves? So, you're right. It's something we've neglected for a lot of younger voters. Um, Now, you're not quite the average younger voter, by the way,
Correct.
because you are the CEO of Epic Rev, that's REV, Vision. Am I right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And what is that?
So when I started, before I got into politics, one of the things that I wanted to do was have a community in the sense of where, I could let me backtrack. There was so much
Sure.
negativity and so much propaganda when it came to media. I started to realize that people are not seeing things where they're learning and they're able to engage and have fun all on the same platform. So what I did was Epic Rev Vision, which means the Rev part means revolutionary, right? So what I wanted to do was revolutionize what people see and what people interact and engage with as well. So for me, Epic Rev Vision, what we decided was is that we're going to shine light on nonprofits, business startups, as well as the kids that's doing music videos, as well as the youth and other forms of arts, and partner up with other medias, and we're going to put them all on the same platform so they can engage with each other, so they can look at each other and see what's going on. Because what happens is that if you got the cool kids on one platform and they're not paying attention to the information, and that information is not where the cool kids is at, then that information is lost for that generation, or even for those people who could actually benefit from that. So what I decided was to make a platform, and not even just a platform, but just be the bridge to connect all these businesses, these politicians, these youth, these nonprofits all together so they can utilize each other and just share information, be tapped into what's going on around them, because a lot of the times the elders are saying the youth don't listen, the youth is saying the elders is not listening. But one thing I gotta say is for the youth is that y'all gotta understand is that these elders are willing to offer a helping hand if you are showing that you're willing to learn and listen as well. So that's what my media platform is geared towards. It's geared towards, hey, look, no, you might you might not like this rap video, and no, you might not be into politics, but seeing them on the same platform together and seeing them in unison together, now it opens up a dynamic to where you don't have to close yourself in or trap yourself in a box to what's cool and getting the information, if that makes sense.
Sure, it's kind of a fusion of politics and rap. Actually, political rap is not a new thing. There was, God, NW, not NWA. What was it called? With Flavor Flav, it was his organization back in the day, back in the '90s. I can't. Fight the Power was the
Right.
song that was really popular. My God, I can't remember their name at the moment, but I grew up with them. And in the '90s, there was a lot of rap music that dealt with
Right.
politics to introduce it into inner cities that maybe didn't focus on it. Again, civics wasn't talking about it at all in the classroom.
At
So
all.
I get that. It makes sense. And we've actually fallen away from that to look at music as only entertainment rather than also having a teaching
Right.
component.
And it's not just about music. Like, me, I come out even as a candidate, even as a working man, even as a father. I come out and I film nonprofits. I come out and film, people that's doing cleanups, and we edit and we put things together. If a young kid in my community tells me they have a business or they have something that they want to explore, my job is to connect them to the right person that they'll be able to flourish. Because a part of one of the things that we must teach our kids too, sometimes it's not always what you know, sometimes it's who you know as well. So one of the things that I like to promote to the young youth is that a lot of y'all parents are working in these city jobs. A lot of y'all parents have a lot of connections that could set you up, you know, for your next upcoming years. So for
Mhm.
example, like my mother, right? She works in corrections. Now, if I was to go into corrections, I would have like a grandfather clause in to where there I would be make sure that I'm taken care of in certain areas and certain parts of that nature. And they do that the same thing for police, the same thing for firemen, even for the post office, where is if you get family members that go into these certain fields, of course you get certain privileges that the normal person won't have, per the se, right? And what I'm saying is this: we have to start privileging our own. We must also start opening doors for our own to prosper. And a lot of times what happens is that you have a parent who's doing the best they can, working, doing what they got to do, and you got a kid who's also trying to figure things out in their lifestyle. But the disconnect is that the kids now are not looking to work for nobody else. The kids want to work for themselves. The kids want to be bosses. The kids, not to say it like this, they're looking at it like, look, not we can make money outside of just going to school, doing a 9 to 5, or going to college and things like that. And those things, I'm not glorifying and I'm not saying it's the right way, but we must understand that with technology, it gave a different option for our kids and our youth. And if we don't steer that narrative to where it's going, where it's educational and it's positive, we will lose our kids to the chaotic system of whatever's going on, if that makes sense.
If I understand you, so if we lose involvement with our kids, they're more likely to go out there, accept the Hollywood, the music industry image of being gangsters and drug dealers and addicts because that's somehow attractive. Or the theme since 1992 in the black community, there's been a big emphasis on being a gangster, going to jail, getting street credibility, and somehow that's supposed to promote you in your work and your life afterwards when demonstrably it's the exact opposite. So that's what I'm understanding from what you're saying. Am I understanding it right?
Yeah, correct. I'm pretty much saying that if we don't like the stigmas or the social stigmas that's put on us, we have to change that. And we must be involved. For people to sit there and be like, well, I'm not involved into politics or I'm not involved into business, you can't afford that luxury. None of us can. because our
Okay.
political leaders and elected officials is involved in everything.
Yeah. Well, I word it a little differently because I'm part of, for better or worse, I'm part of the news media. I'm part of the political system. So I speak in that way. You're speaking from someone who's not in politics, a real person, just saying, okay, I want change. And that's, it's refreshing because it can get very boring hearing the same people say the same things over and over again.
Hmm.
Let me ask this. You mentioned something else that I think is important for voters to understand and to understand where you're coming from. You mentioned that you're a father. I didn't know that. Uh,
Correct.
how, how old's your child?
So I'm a father of a beautiful 2 years old, Layel Essence Goodman. And I love my child. Being a father is one of the best things that ever happened to me. It helped me mature, helped me grow a lot, and it helped me understand that hey, life is not about you. And speaking from a young man who had a great father, my father Eric Goodman, who passed away 2 years ago. Um, you
Sorry.
know, One of the biggest challenges that I have is making sure that my daughter feels the same love that I felt when my father was here. So it's like me having my daughter is everything, and that's one of the reasons why I even decided to even go even harder with politics, because I got to make sure that if as long as we're still in the projects or in the neighborhoods and we got family here, I got to make sure she'll be able to visit and be safe, as long as while she's here, while she's being safe, and understand that her daddy stood for something. So then now maybe she could run for local office and not be a hazard to the community, but instead be somebody that can help and benefit the community.
No, that's a fantastic reason to run. I actually, I think it's one of the best reasons to run for the family, for future, to improve the community, not just for yourself, but for everyone. So you're not just an entrepreneur. You're not just looking to be in politics. You're also a family man. You're looking to improve the world for your children. Okay.
That comes first.
Uh, Good point. Okay, so we now understand some of your priorities and the way that you're looking at politics, looking at the community in New York, and to an extent across the country. I think that's a good base for voters to start understanding you. But now let's go a little bit more into what is it that Tariq Goodman stands for? Now, I do know, and I spoke to you first in 2024 because you were running for the 84th Assembly District in the Bronx. You were running for an elected office. You got on the ballot then. The mainstream news media ignored you. They ignored the entire conservative party, as well as the Republican candidates, ignored all of them, and said no one exists except the Democrat. And what a shock, the Democrat won,
Well,
because that's the only person people knew about.
right.
Uh, So you're not a first time candidate now, which is an eye opening experience for a lot of people. What made you decide, okay, I ran for an assembly, now I want to go for city council? And what's different in this experience?
You know what's crazy? After I ran my first election, even though they didn't give us news coverage and things like that,
Hmm.
they heard us. They saw us, and we made our presence felt. For example, we had an issue with Third Avenue. Third Avenue, as you know, the hub. There was a lot of needles there. There's a lot of people who, was just strung out on drugs, and the issue is not fully changed or fully complete. But because we went out there, and I went out there with a group of young entrepreneurs and a group of young individuals, we started to clean up. And you could check my social media, bro. We came out, we cleaned up, and I did that on my birthday weekend. And then after that, we came back, we did it another month, and we did another month after that. After that, what I started to notice is that with my opponent, which was smartly so, and which she had every right to do, was she addressed that issue. So think of it like Bernie Sanders, right? Yeah, I might not win the election, but when I say something is going to be heard and get the people to talk, at least so we could change that issue.
Okay.
So
And a
for
lot
me,
of candidates do that. Yeah.
right. So for me, running in this election is like, okay, we have a poverty issue. We have a homeless issue. We have people in shelters right now, but yet and still they're not being housed in permanent housing. But yet and still, where the city is housing everybody else who are not citizens. We have people living in nature who have asbestos issues. You know, I'm pretty sure if you looked at my Instagram, you've seen when I showed you where our trash is going outside. It's literally outside on the corner. And we have lived that way so long, it's become normal. So my thing is to say, okay, I'm in the conservative party. I'm in the Republican Party, the party that y'all call racist, the party that y'all say is not for Black Americans. But yet and still, we have always had Democrat representation here in our communities. Why is this like this? Why is this like this? Why is the community like this? Why is people are not? Why are we still having a homeless problem no matter who is in president, but this is always being ran under Democrat elected officials? Crime. So when we talk about change, I'm starting to look at it and I'm starting to say, well, maybe at one point those elected officials got involved to really do good for the community. And somewhere along the way, they lost their way because they no longer had to deal with the circumstances that they was fighting for. I don't have that problem because I'm living currently in the circumstances that I'm fighting for.
So,
Right now, I'm talking to you from a NYCHA building, right here in the project. So I'm in the community,
okay.
you know. So it's about exposing the what's going on, and to say either you fix it or we're gonna vote you out, and people are gonna pick people like me to come up and make that change.
Okay. So at first, for people who are unaware, NYCHA is the New York City Housing Authority, and they run the government buildings.
Correct.
Often they'll say it's government housing, but everyone and their brother calls it the projects because that's what it is. It's the projects. They've said that when I was young in the 90s, we called it the projects. They call it the projects now. And often that's where the idea of ghetto fabulous first came out, is from the projects. People
Right.
trying to make the best of a not so great situation. Projects are known for having lower income individuals. That doesn't mean they're good or bad. It means that they're not Bill Gates. Bill Gates isn't, LeBron James isn't living in the projects. I wish he would. I guarantee you he would donate and make money, make investments in his community entirely differently if he did, but he doesn't. Same thing with Snoop Dogg and everyone else. You named it artist, that's just the case. Fair enough. And that also is true of politicians. AOC, when she was a bartender, was living a pretty modest lifestyle. Today, she's now been in politics for about 10 years and she's worth about, I believe the estimate is $17 million. She lives in a gated community outside of all of her constituents. So it happens in entertainment, it happens in politics, and you're pointing out that for you, you're still with the people, the community, so you hear from them directly.
Correct.
Fair. So let me understand if that's the case. It sounds like I looked over some of your literature, and yes, I do recommend to people check out your website, your chat, your contact information on social media. You do have a video where you're using GPS to highlight various projects, and in those projects, you're just showing pictures which looked like they were
Can't hear
live
you.
from GPS. You can't hear me? You can't hear me now. Oh, wait a minute. I just lost you too. One second. Don't know. Hang on. What just happened? Can you hear me now? Go ahead. No, not yet. I'm folks who are listening in.
Okay. Now
I'm
I can hear you.
switching. You can hear me now. Okay, I
Yes.
just had to switch from
All
my
right.
Bluetooth to speakerphone. So if the audio quality changed a little bit, folks, That's the reason why I had to switch to my speakerphone.
Give
So,
me 1 second. Let me just run to get this charger real quick.
mhm, mhm. So as he's going to do that, I just want to let people know that we're still here, and
Yes,
just had
yes,
to switch my audio input. Not a problem. And he's getting himself set up. Sorry. This is what happens when you're live.
yeah.
Sometimes things change up. It's okay. So, uh, we're live. Life is imperfect. None of us are in studios. We don't have the billions of a Mark Cuban. I wish I did. So, and I don't got 10,000 employees like CNN. So we do what we can. Don't worry about it. Real people have real issues. Uh, but I was just talking about, so you're in the projects along with the rest of your community.
Correct.
You've used GPS to highlight the inefficiency of government, to show sanitation failed, the maintenance of a lot of the projects, the city housing completely failed. You showed buildings that are cracked, crumbling, damaged, and a
Correct.
danger to the people in the community. So that's one. It sounds like that's one of your big issues. Let me ask, what else? So housing is an issue. You
Shelter.
made it clear you want to improve that as city council member. What else would you want to do for those who aren't in city housing?
Well, one of the things that I would like to do is, as part of being city council, I will want to make the city budget reform more open. Break it down and let people know what the money is being used for, how the money is being used. And also bring them in and let them also help with the decision making of how the money can better suit their community. Because a
Okay.
lot of times, a lot of people don't understand what's even going on, or how the system even works. So one of the things, and even with me running, is to educate them on what is city council, what is the job of a city council person, how does it work, and also understanding the bills and the things and the contracts that's already put in motion that that we even need to have to get rid of, or we need to renew.
Okay. So, what is, you said it yourself, what do you see as the responsibility of a city councilman? If you are elected, what is your obligation to the public?
My obligation, the city council is supposed to look into every agency that money is coming through them that they give money to. So I probably didn't say that in the correct way, but pretty much they're supposed to overlook where they're giving their money to. And then not only are they supposed to overlook these things and overlook these agencies, they must also put provisions in place to make sure that the community is being served. Outside of what the community is being served, they must understand and know what's lacking in the community to help. So part of being city council, what I'm seeing is not actually what I read up on the job description, because what I'm seeing is that when you go to their office, they're never in their office. You get what I'm saying? They're never
Mhm.
really talking to the people directly and breaking down anything to them. When I went to the community board meeting and they put the 200,000 migrant shelter there on Brooklyn Boulevard, that city council person was the first person to know about that happening and knowing that the building was going to be used for migrants. That job of that city council person was to talk to the community boards and see what the community feel is right and what can best help the community. Instead, our city elected officials are playing agendas and politic games. So they don't really care about what you want. They care about what's good for them to get reelected.
Okay. So, by the way, one slight thing, this is technical. You may want to
Yeah.
tilt the camera one way or the other. You've got a light right
Oh,
behind
sorry.
your head. So when you move, it gets into the eyes. No problem. Um, it's just, I'm a cameraman, so I look for things like that. Um, but so you've been to city council meetings, you've been involved in this process, trying to find out what's the best thing for your community. And you're saying that you're not being served right now. Have you tried to speak to the city councilman?
No, I have never got a chance to speak to her because, to be honest with you, just like many citizens, if you ask them right now how to get in contact with their local city council, right, they'll get a number, you look it up, and everything else like that. But you will not be speaking to them. You'll be speaking to an assistant. You go to their office, you will not see them. And let's be very clear, like I said, I was once one of those people who written these things off, who didn't really
Mhm.
see that it was beneficial and seeing that it was going to help. And then when I got involved and I realized, hold on, it's a systematic thing that's happening here. And it's a reason why this information is not being given to the people. It's a reason why, our city elected officials will turn a blind eye to certain things because of so much corruption and so much of agenda playing. And what I mean by agenda, which means is this. Best believe if you look at the Bronx, there's a lot of overdevelopment going on. But yet and still, there's a homeless problem.
Yeah.
So if our elected officials is allowing this to happen and we still have a homeless problem, what does that look like to the community?
Okay. Uh, by the way, I just want to make a quick note that we did have a question from Joanna. We will get back to your question in just a moment, Joanna. I just want to follow this train of thought and the answer. So you're highlighting an issue that many people have talked about. It's the consequence of the open borders. It's the illegal immigrants that have come into New York. Somewhere in the neighborhood, depending on which source you go by, I'm going by the left-leaning media. They say it's 200,000. I would say it's closer to 300,000 or 400,000 entered into New York in roughly between 2023, 2024. That's the number they're quoting. So let's say it's 200,000. And that has taken away resources. We've seen that with Eric Adams, making it very public. It's not been denied by any Democrat. We're spending somewhere between $2 to $5 billion in New York City alone. Very similar numbers in Boston, Chicago, in LA. Very similar numbers across the country for taking care of these illegal aliens. What would be your solution if you're on that city council? What is the process that you would like to see? Let's imagine that anything and everything is possible. It's not. There are restrictions in politics involved, but let's assume that you can just, Tyreek Goodman gets elected, he's sitting there in city council, and everyone's saying, Tyreek, you tell us which way are we going to go? How do we lead on this issue? I can't hear you. Did you mute yourself? Mhm, mhm. Go ahead, say something. Go ahead, say something. I'm not hearing you. Are you using Bluetooth? You may want to take off the Bluetooth. I see you. I see your lips. I don't hear you. Don't worry, folks. It's live. What's the old saying? I'm doing it live. Oh, that's what we're doing. And technical issues happen sometimes. It's part of the process of technology. Well, that's the dinner table. Oh, we lost him for a second. Don't worry, folks. He should be coming back in just a moment. There we go.
Hold on, give me 1 second.
Okay. Um, Let me know when you're ready. And yeah, you can see me. I know everyone can see me just like barely. Bear with me, folks. I know I'm here. So we're waiting for Tyreek, and I think he's ready now because I heard him. Let's try it now. Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine now.
Okay,
So
so when I
just to
first
recap, the question was Tyreek Goodman gets elected. He's in New York City Council. They all turn in the meeting and say, "You're the young man, so you lead." What is your answer? What do you do?
first thing we're gonna do is look into every agency that's providing help and making sure that one, we're going into the shelter system. We need to make sure that the shelters that we are giving our money to, that's funded here inside the Bronx or inside District 8, are being housed and being used for the people that are from here. That's just that's just my first order of business is let's look into this and let's find out how many people are still sitting on vouchers, how many people are still waiting to be placed, and not to say it like this, if there's any shelter that is operating or housing migrants and we have a high number of those who can be placed into those facilities.
Hmm? Lost your audio again. It looked like you blinked for a second and then I lost your audio. Well, technology, folks, technology. Go ahead, say something. No. Are you on speakerphone or did you switch back to Bluetooth? I can't hear you. So you may want to try speakerphone. Have you tried speakerphone yet? There, oh, sounded like I heard something.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. That's good. Sorry about that.
No, it's
Um,
like I said, technology happens. Don't worry about it. Go on.
So my first order of business is just to look into the shelter system, figure out who has vouchers, who's still waiting for placement when it comes to apartments. My second order of business is to really break down the funds and seeing how they're being allocated and where they're being given to. And then the third part of business is just now giving the people the information and the contracts that's already in motion, and also letting people and being more transparent with people about my city council position, so they would get weekly updates. It won't be a kid that be shot in my community, and I'm not going there to the community to speak to the mother or speak to the people. Nobody's gonna get hurt. Something not gonna happen in my district, and I'm not gonna show up. My job is to be there. My job is to also make sure that the medias and everybody else are being served, and they're coming out and they're putting the right attention on what needs to be put. I mean, shining the right light on positive things within the community. And one of my biggest things is just bringing resources and bringing people together. So whatever's going on in my district, I know that if District 9 is struggling, District 7, whatever community is struggling that's near my district, my job is to help them as well. Because that's another thing we don't see city council people do. We don't see them support each other outside of just elections. A problem in your community could be the same problem in my community. Even if I fix it in my community, if it's not fixed in yours, we still have the same issue. So, the, that's where I stand at with things.
Okay. So let me ask you, because it's not just one issue that New York
Right.
City needs to deal
Correct.
with.
It's a lot.
We have a lot of things. So one of them is, as you've addressed, is housing. Another concern is migrant housing, which is a separate issue. Much of that
Facts.
is illegal aliens. Let's call them what they are. They are criminals. They entered America illegally. These are my terms, but they are legal terms. And you have a way of looking at that. You've mentioned how you would want to address that initially. How about crime in general? Obviously, that is a very big issue. That has something to do with illegal aliens, but it also has to do with just crime in general. Bad economies, increased crime.
Crime
So, right.
crime is only able to happen because within our communities we are still segregated. Now let me break this down to you. You
Sure.
want gun violence to stop, right? But meanwhile, community board 2 and community board 1 kids are shooting at each other. How do you stop that shooting? How do you stop this beef?
That's the question everyone's trying to answer.
This the thing. The craziest thing is very simple. Is you get the parents to sit in the room and you get the parents to talk. You get the parents. And a lot of times when it comes to crimes, we forget about the parents. The parents are clearly saying they need support. And we have laws and we have things set up to where parents cannot check their kids. Parents cannot, put their kids on a certain path and set in a certain way because there's laws and there's teachers who, could easily say, you don't got to listen to your mother or your father.
They are saying that, especially in, we see that
Well,
mostly
we're
these
not.
days in
Well, let's
France.
say
Go
I'll
ahead.
say this: they're not saying that, but the option is out there for a kid not to listen to their mother or their father.
No, they are saying that. They are. In fact, we've
Even
seen video of them saying that in schools. Don't listen to your parents. You can do something different.
so,
We
when
are
we talk
seeing that.
about things like that, when a teacher who only sees your kid probably only 6, 7, 8 hours out of the day, and then now you're a mother or father who got to work. Your kid is out here playing, as of any other kid with any other community, playing out here with the other local neighborhood kids, having fun and things like that. But what happens is while you're telling them not to listen to us, when they go outside, who you think they're gonna listen to if it's not us? The
No one.
thing is,
No.
exactly. And I remember watching something, and I remember somebody saying that before the students used to be afraid of their parents. So then now they respected the teachers, right? But what
Mhm.
happened is somewhere along the line is that the students start listening to their parents. Now they don't gotta respect the teachers. The teachers don't rely on the parents and give the parents the support to help them with their kids. And at the end of the day, what happens is that you just got a bunch of people that surround these kids and give up on them. They don't really offer them nothing. There's no real protection. And at the end of the day, it's like if you want crime to stop and you want these kids to stop shooting each other, and the reason why I'm saying kids, because a lot of the gun crimes that's happening now are the youth. I got
Mhm.
shot when I was 16 years old. There was no cameras around like that around 2008, 2009. There's more cameras now. Why is the gun violence so high? Why is it more guns in the city more than ever? Now, once again, I was raised in that lifestyle. Now I have a kid. I fear that in another couple of years, things are going to get worse. So for me, one of my major things is, and even before I get into office, whether I make it into office or not, one of my biggest things is let's get these communities together. Let's get some of these OGs in the room with some of these youth. Because let me tell you something. Some of these guys that's out here that's doing in the community, whether they selling drugs or gang banging and they old, they didn't really want to be in that life. They was trapped and they stuck and they don't know a way out. So if you tell them, yo, bro, you want your kid to really grow up in the same environment and possibly catch a bullet or anything else when they could be a politician like me, or they can run for local office, or they could do this, they can have a job, or they can even do what you're doing, Michael. That person who's doing what he's doing in the community would say, help my kid. Tell me what I have to do.
Well, you're right. We've seen that over and over again. Great examples of that. Ice T, who was I mean, he admitted it himself. His life started, he made some poor choices. He was convicted quite a few times on a lot of charges. He was a gangster. Um, and he then turned his life around and he's an upstanding citizen today. We know Snoop Dogg he was a gangbanger. There's no question about
Yeah.
that. That was his life. He turned himself around. And you don't see their kids living the life they live because they want a better life
Listen,
for their kids.
Young Jeezy was telling youth, trap or die. Not one time did he have his kid out there trapping. Because let me tell you something, people that come from where I come from, like for me, right? I'm in politics. It's easy for me to get caught up into the political games, corruption, and everything else like that. But if I wanted to do all of that, I could have did that in the streets. So people that come from where we come from, we're not glorifying getting shot at, getting hurt, feeling depressed, going through mental issues, feeling like there's no hope. And then what we gonna do? Blame it on the next man? Blame it on somebody that's outside of our race? We was told that lie. Just to find out and understand that sometimes it be the people that look just like you who feel a way about their own kind that'll stop you from being the best you can be. So now, what I tell people is this: representation when it comes to race, we have to look past that. We have to start looking at the individuals and looking at what they stand for and what they are about. I'm not asking you to vote for me because, I want you to like me or whatever party I'm in. It's not about that. I'm asking you to vote for me and also take a stand with me into making a change. Because if you vote for me, but at the same sense, you're not aware and you're not paying attention to what's going on in your community, nothing is not going to change. So,
Okay.
me stepping up and saying we all must step up. Even when we talk about the sanitation, I just want to touch on this. Because
Sure.
when it comes to the Department of Sanitation, what I was showing was not their failure. Because let's be very clear, we're the ones that's putting our garbage outside on those corners, right? And they're the ones that got to pick it up. I brought light to that to say there's a better option that we need to change this. This is not normal. We're complaining about rats, and on all sides, both the tenants and NYCHA must say this is not normal. We don't need this here. Let's put a bin here. Let's start putting our garbages in bins. And that's what it's all about. I have a lot of Democrats that's as family, but me not being a Democrat is a reflection to let the Democrats know that y'all missed out on a kid like me. And there's a lot of kids like me in the projects who are passionate, who are thinkers, who, a lot of people counted out. But at the end of the day, they are connected. They're doing for their community, and they're willing to fight for their community. But if you don't give them the proper information and you gatekeep, it's going to be the same thing.
So, what I'm getting so far, if I'm understanding correctly, is you have a very much family centric, very community centric point of
Correct.
view on many of these issues. That the answer isn't just government or just throw money at it, but okay, let's be involved with the community, with the parents on many of these issues to
Right.
get to the core problem, to at least talk or to try and address and to solve it. That's what I'm hearing on
Yeah.
education. That's what I'm hearing about crime. That's what I'm hearing about sanitation
Even
and
even
housing.
health,
Is that right?
even healthcare. Because if you ask the community, if you noticing that a lot of our men are dying from cancer, why are we not mandatory early testing? Why we're not making sure there's cancer clinics and breast cancer, those little trucks that come out and test our people and test the
Mhm.
citizens. When we have issues of these things, a lot of the times the government do not look to its citizens to solve its own problems. So now the citizens become reliant on the government. If you feel like your store in your community is selling you trash, selling
Mhm.
you poor goods, then create a business. Find out the local farmers markets that's outside of New York that would donate to you and donate to your community so you can have your store and give, healthy products to your community. But people won't know this. People will look for our elected officials, and our elected officials will sit here and be like, yeah, we could offer you this, we could offer you that. I'm here to tell you right now, no matter who you vote into office, if you are not paying attention and you are not involved, nothing is going to change directly in your community. You must make the elected officials do the work.
Okay. So you want to have high accountability for the elected officials on exactly
Only
what's
way.
happening. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, so we talked a little bit about healthcare in there as well. So we're covering a lot of topics, but and I do want to get to mental health in just one moment. But before we do that, because the elephant in the room, everyone is freaking out right now about taxes. Everyone's freaking out about tariffs. Everyone's freaking out about the economy. That's an
every channel, and most of the mainstream news media are out there screaming doom and gloom, orange man bad, we're going into a depression. That's essentially the mainstream news media mantra across almost all the platforms. Whether or not that's true, whether or not people agree with that, that's a different thing. I'll leave that for my commentary. But as someone who is running for elected office, we're talking about the City Council of New York, one of the largest government agencies outside of DC. Obviously, taxes and tariffs, to an extent, are going to affect all of the communities and your constituents. Let me ask you, what is your outlook on the economy, taxes?
When it comes
Now,
to tariffs, we got to be very clear. Nothing. When have the last time you seen anything made in America?
oh, it's
When
been
are
a
you
while. I mean,
when are
manufacturing
you
is down.
buying anything? When are you buying anything American?
The tariffs are
So
down, exports are up.
now this is the
Yes.
thing. This is the thing, right? We're not buying when they talk about, and this is the funniest thing. They talk about recirculating the black dollar, right? And they talk about the difference between the white community able to circulate their dollar. Let's be very clear. Other people that's coming from other countries are not circulating their dollar within their community in America. They're circulating their dollar outside of America. We have been laxed on trade. We have made provisions for people to get their food and certain delicious items here from their different countries, and we don't tax them on these things. We've been very generous across the border when it comes to getting these people goods. And in return, what are they buying from us? And that's the question. So
Okay.
my
Go
thing
ahead.
is this, right? When it comes to the tariffs and stuff like that, and them, putting taxes on these goods and things like that, I'm not phased by it because America has their own products and own goods that we can sell to replace those things. And if people don't believe me, let's research some of these things and materials that we have at home. It's just that another party or another group of people told you that where you live does not have no resources or benefits to you because they rather you work in their and other ways than actually you producing. And a lot of our peers in our community right now, you ever heard of what a pop-up shop is? We have a lot of people that's selling clothes, selling merchandise, selling all these things. It's about time, the same way how we shop in these international markets, they could come in and shop with us and buy from our consumers, and we can also, bring some of our goods across their country.
Okay. Uh, there was something you said in that. I just want a clarification because you said that the circulation of the dollar isn't happening in the black community.
No.
Now, a lot of people, some people who aren't familiar with politics may ask the question, what do you mean by circulating the dollar? What does that mean?
So which means is that the dollar goes right back into the community. And what I mean right back into the community, I don't mean just in another black person business hands, but goes into the. So which means is I buy from the store. Usually in most towns and most places, companies and stores, they do stuff for the community at large. They give back to the community at large. So therefore, that's how the dollar circulates because that business gives back to the community in the same sense. So therefore, whatever extra resources they get, the community also builds. Right? Correct?
Yeah,
In a
we see
certain
that.
sense.
Yeah,
So
we see that in a couple of examples. The local hardware store may be buying the local little league may be buying their uniforms.
exactly.
You may see a church will donate food
Right.
to the local community. You could see the local grocery store donate food or have like a picnic or something.
Right.
So those kind of things are giving back in.
or
Yes.
even or even as far as you have certain companies who are investing in certain ideas or certain nonprofits or startups outside of government help. And only thing I'm just saying is that when we look at all these things, we got to understand that when it for me, I look at stuff like that when it comes to money, and I look at what the president is doing, and I know it's gonna ruffle some feathers, and I know people are not gonna be used to what he's saying because it's not normal. He is coming at it from an unorthodox way to get what he wants. But in all reality, I'm not mad at it because I look at it like this. Right now in my community, we have a lot of people from other descents that come from other countries that have stores in my community right now. And their money does not come back to my community to benefit my community. Instead, it gets taken out my community to benefit where they live, which some
Okay.
places be better areas and segregated areas within New York. So we could talk about the systematic thing, but also in hindsight and in fairness, I also look at my people and I say we got to demand more from these stores that's also selling goods around where we're at. And when it comes to international, I'll be honest with you, Americans, especially me personally, and I speak strictly for myself, I get sick and tired of hearing about all the international bickering, what's going on with them, because at the end of the day, the president won. Whatever happens and what's gonna happen with them will affect us. I'm not saying it's not, but locally is how you could stop whatever you don't like.
Mhm.
I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative, but I don't have to agree with everything that man does or everything he says. And best
Of course.
believe, if anything come out where I'm in office and it's detrimental to my people, I'll be the first one to say, "Hey, Trump, listen, brother, I voted for you, but this we not gonna play these games because our people come first."
No, because no one should be considered monolithic. I mean, all white people, all the Democrats didn't agree with Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. You can go through any politician, any group, doesn't mean that everyone agrees with them because we're
Yeah,
human beings. We all have different ideas, and you should disagree to some degree. I agree with that. Um, let me, I want to address, I know we kind of talked about youth voters earlier. We kind of talked about health and education. I just I want to get maybe a little bit more on the issue of mental health
okay.
because I think that's a key issue that many people talk about because it's connected to crime. It's connected to whether it's on subways, people being pushed in front of trains, individuals attacking people with a rock or other weapons, whether it's mass shootings. There's a lot of aspects where mental health, and it also is a very large part of the homeless community. A lot of people are homeless because they have mental issues. So, obviously, throughout a city like New York, 8 million people, we have a large homeless population. We have a large population of people with mental health issues. Not as big as California, but still pretty big for most cities. How do you look at the mental health crisis in New York? And do you have an idea of how you might want to resolve that, or at least start that process?
I might get a fight for saying this, but I'm gonna be honest. When it comes to mental health, a lot of people are not mentally going through anything other than living in bad, horrible conditions, other than feeling like there's not no help. So a lot of people out here are being diagnosed and feeling like, they're depressed and they're down and they're going through something mental, when in reality, we're all going through that. Mental health right now has become a problem because a lot of people can't control what? The mental. They can't control the mental state of where they're at in life. And it's hard. It's put it like this. If people in the media focused on positive things and you had more people getting together having fun and you had more positive promoted, even among politicians can fight all day, but at least you've seen somewhat of unity. That will help somebody mentally in their head overcome whatever they're going through.
Mhm.
Because when you're going through mental problems outside of a chemical imbalance, if you got a chemical imbalance, that's something different, you know. And what I mean chemical imbalance is it could be the way how your brain function, how your brain work. Like I was a kid, I had an IEP, so certain things that I would read, I would have to read it again just so I could fully process it. But that doesn't mean I'm mentally disabled. That
No,
doesn't mean
no,
now all of a sudden I have mental health issues. But
no.
if I didn't get the help that I needed during that time, and I speak and I stumble, you'll see me get frustrated. You'll see
Mhm.
certain things mentally that will put me in a bubble and trap. So we got to ask ourselves, is some of these people mental? Are they really going through mental illness? Or it's the lack of education? Is it the lack of resources? Are they sick and tired? Or matter of fact, are they depressed? Once we
Well,
attack those issues and those things, we'll find a better way to attack the mental health pandemic that's going on. Because right now, they're mixing mental health with giving you pills. Pills do not solve your issues. Those things are just blockers and retain and restrictors, as I say. But it does not fix the issue. It keeps you dependent. We need the people that can be independent thinkers.
okay.
So we need to open up. If I was in office, I would set things in play to where people can have time for retreats. Whether you're, for the kids, whether it's for the elderly, for the adults, even parents, they need support. Like, they be struggling. And now what we say, oh, they're going through mental stuff. No, they were just screaming for help and they just lost their mind one day.
Okay. Yes, parents can. I can see how, I've seen more than my share of 5-year-olds that can drive anyone crazy after a while, and you got to deal with them. Parents deal with them all day long, and every day. Uh, so I understand that. So you're looking at a segment of, and you did describe there's a difference. There are those with chemical or genetic imbalances.
Correct.
That's one thing, and there's process for them.
Right.
But there's another segment, perhaps a large one from what you're saying, and we do know depression is up in America
Right.
across the board. And we
Correct.
do know prescriptions are up to
Up.
deal with, prescriptions are the number one answer for depression in America at
So
this
look,
time.
we're gonna easily say everybody has a mental health issue when money. Who's making money when they dishing out these pills? We're also living through a opium and fentanyl pandemic as well.
Oh,
So we
must
gotta.
absolutely.
So listen to this, right? And this is what I say with media. Y'all have the job of this. If you come out and you say there's a mental health issue, another media comes out says a mental health issue, another media comes out have mental health issue. Only thing that happens is that when the doctor says to a kid or to a parent, you have to take this pill. How can a parent fight against it? Because then the politicians put in laws and say you need these things to be okay. And then the ones who don't qualify, who probably really do need it, are not going to get it because there's certain stipulations in between. So we got to understand and we got to look at why is homelessness up, depression is up, and also pharmacies is making a lot of money. But also mental health right now is a big issue.
Right.
All those things correlate, my friend.
Okay. And so that's something that you want to look into. That's what I'm hearing from
Oh,
you.
we're not
We
we're
have to
not
adjust.
just we're not waiting. See, this is the thing. My candidacy is not waiting for city council for anything. Whether you elect me or not, my job is to get things done. So whoever is in that seat have no choice but to get things done, because now I'm watching, and my peers is watching, and I have people who look at me and says, "Hey, you know what? I might want to run for this district in another couple of years or so." And I see what you're doing, and they're way more qualified than me. My job is to show the people that this can be done, and at 16, you could become part of community board. 18, you can run for local government, no matter what your criminal record is. And not to say it like this, if you graduated high school, you graduated college, it's okay if you want to leave your community and go away. But sometimes it's good to also, if you want to build up your community, you talking about this is your block, you care about your community, listen, go to college here. New York got some of the best punies and SUNYs here, and help build up your community. Start a business, start a non-for-profit. And some of these vacant buildings, we can get them into. And once we change that dynamic within the projects and start, because you got a lot of city workers living in the
Mhm.
projects.
True.
You got a lot of people that make the city go around living in the projects. So why are they living in piss and shit? Excuse my language. Why are we living under the worst circumstances? To the point where, once again, I was granted and I was grateful to be given my apartment because my mother moved out. She went to corrections and she got a better life. And she said, hey, I ain't staying here. Right?
Right.
Yet and still, we should be able to leave our kids something that we feel also. Like my mother felt, she knew, like, you're going to be good. And she was right. But within the community sense, imagine leaving it to where now I know my son could be a president. I know my son could be this. I know my son could be that, because there's people in the community already doing that. Where
Mhm.
I'm at right now, me running for politics, if you ask my friends, you ask everybody, they'll look at you and they'll be like, oh, we never seen that coming. That came out of the blue. So, and that's inspiring. Why? Because in some sense they lost hope. In some sense they thought that nobody cared about them. So even elected officials and people, shining light on me is showing that, look, we care. We care what's going on. Because I'm not talking nonsense and I'm not talking about me. Nothing that I have said in this conversation is about me and what I feel. Yes, I'm going through it with the collective, but everything that I'm saying is something that my friend's mother is going through, something that my friend is going through, something that I see when I walk outside my building every day.
Right. And that's where politics starts. It starts with the individual and the community. So I understand that completely. If you, that's why people get in politics. I saw something in my community. I want to change it, make it better. And in many cases, for not only myself, my kids, as well as the rest of the community. So I understand that completely. And I also think I figured out one of the reasons why you're not being covered by the mainstream news media. And it's real simple. And you mentioned it. You're a black Republican conservative. Oh my God, you don't exist. You're not supposed to exist. And if they talk about you, well, then you exist. And that means the narrative that every black person is a monolithic Democrat disappears. So that may be the reason why they're afraid. Could be. Or they're afraid to come into the Bronx. I don't know. Could be both. I don't know why, but okay. Uh, so we covered, you've talked about, and I love that in many of your answers, you're answering parts of the questions that I wanted to ask, and you've incorporated that. So when we're talking about mental health, you've also included in that the inspiration for the next generation. You've talked about politics. You've talked about getting out voters, not just for this election, but in the future, and having higher accountability for uh, um, all elected officials, regardless of whom they are or what party they're part of. You've talked about self responsibility, that you're an example of it for yourself and your community, but also others. I love that all of these things are coming out of what you're saying. As we answer one question, we answer others. So you put a lot of thought into this. Uh,
Correct.
Now we've been here for about an hour, give or take, give or take a couple of technical issues, which
Right, right,
life happens. You know what? I don't mind that. It's we're real people. We have real situations.
right.
Life happens. We're not some multi-million. I'm not hiding a multi-million-dollar studio anywhere. I'm in the Bronx. That's how it is. Uh, but I want to make sure. One, I'm going to answer. We got a question from the audience. I'm going to answer that in just a moment. But I also want to make sure: is there any subject or any issue that you think is important in the 2025 election for the City Council 8th District that we haven't talked about at this moment, that you believe is pressing, something that people should know right now?
We have All right. So one of the things that I want to touch on is a big issue, but it's not really. We have a lot of abandoned and vacant properties in the
Mhm.
Bronx, and we need to find out what's going on because what's happening is a lot of centers and a lot of community centers are being closed down, and we need to start opening up these community centers and opening up these daycares. And not to say it like this, with all these abandoned properties around New York, some of these places could be used for nonprofits instead of making these nonprofits fight for one particular place of funding. We can be able to spread this out and help every community. Most of the things that I touch on and I talk about all relates to each other, but I want everybody to understand that once again, I'm not one of those candidates that's saying I can do this and I could be this. I'm saying that no matter who you put into office, if you don't pay attention, you're gonna be mad in the next couple of years how things turn out. Because I'm behind the scenes, I'm behind the room, and nobody's thinking about what you need or care about what you need if they know that you're not gonna fight for it. And because they're letting other people win, let's be very clear. They're making it very clear that they don't no longer need the black and Hispanic vote. So we must be very clear and must be understanding that it's time that we get our kids into politics, but us as a people who live in the projects, we can't be divided by Democrat, conservative, or Republican. Because after the election is over, they're going to go back to being good with each other. Meanwhile, what's going to happen with us in our communities? So, like I said, if I win, my job is not to isolate the Democrats and to stick it to them. And my job is not to do the same thing to Republicans or nobody. My job is to get everybody in the room and say, I'm not here to play with you. The people are not here to play with you. This is serious. And I have family and we have kids that's growing up in these projects and in these communities, and we need things done and we need change to happen. And I don't want to hear this, oh, well, black people don't work together. Black people doing this. Well, you can speak for them. I know in my community, we work together. The black people I've been around, we stick together. The Hispanics that I know, they work together and they care about their community. A lot of times media promote the propaganda and then we say it out of our mouth. And then when we say it out of our mouth, we're cursing ourselves and say we don't work together, we don't stick together. And then this is how the political parties come in. They divide us. And they divide us through political parties. They divide us through race. Not saying racism didn't happen. It did happen. But knowing that a person who looked like me can now throw race in my face and also take money in the back end, that's an issue for me. So me, I'm showing representation is on all sides. Yes, you have people that speak just like me and is real just like me on the Democrat side. But you also have that same option being a Republican and being a conservative. Nobody can tell you what you are not based off of what party or who you back. And understand this, I don't agree with all conservatives. I don't agree with all Republicans. I damn sure don't agree with all Democrats. But what I would say is this, is that it has to become a point in time to where we put people first and we say, forget the political games. Because I would tell my people this, we didn't create none of these parties that we're running under. But yet and still, these parties are respecting us and they're standing by us. And I appreciate that the conservatives, the Republicans, and the Democrats are showing a great thing, what representing and putting people of color on the ballot. But we must understand, just because they are doing this, the people must still retain the power. The people must always drive the car.
Mhm. I understand that completely. Yeah, and I've spoken about that many times on this channel. That we are the government. There is a purpose for that. There's a reason for that, and they're not neo. The elected officials aren't neo nobles. They don't get to make a decision and tell us what we have to do. It is
Correct.
always they serve us, not the other way around. Um, so I do agree with you on that, and I respect that opinion. I know we've covered a lot of things. We had one question that came in. I'm actually surprised it wasn't more, but maybe we'll see in the comments afterwards. And I look forward to people looking that up. We were asked a question by Joanna about how do some of these politicians suddenly get into elected office and they become multimillionaires, uh, and that just doesn't make sense. Uh, the math doesn't add up. So it's you can answer your thought on
It's two things. It's two reasons. And what I'm gonna explain is gonna shine a big light on you, right? It's gonna shine a big light on something. And it's gonna make you question and think. One of the things is this. I get paid by the government to do a certain job. But like I said, a lot of the public officials, they come in and they generally try to do good. But there's already contracts or certain things that's already in place before you get there. Some of these people, order to make laws pass and for certain things to happen, a lot of these politicians get kickbacks, whether it's through their organization or whether it's through them. So that's how they're able to make that much money. So one of the things that I like to tell people is that before you get into politics, get a business. Now people will look at me and say, "Hold on, what do you mean get a business in politics?" Well, your business will bring you more resources to your community than political, because you having a business can help you change your environment more than a political leader talking and speaking about it. Because the political people don't get as much money as you think. But all that money that's coming across their table, what you think starts to happen? Ideas start to come about. And this is why we need transparency in the city council seat. Because we cannot trust anybody, nobody, with that much money coming in and out and expect that they're not human and they're not gonna go through human emotions or go through certain things in their life. So when we make the city council budget and more transparent and how they're spending and where this money go, you will see that 7 million, that 17 million won't even exist. Matter of fact, let's break it down like this: inside trading. How is Bill Clinton and all these other, rich people have their businesses, but yet and still their businesses making way more money than they getting paid for?
You're talking about people like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck
Yeah, yeah.
Schumer,
We have
AOC.
to we
Yeah,
have to put it out there.
yeah.
Now, understand this. When I do my work, I keep my work very separate. When I do Epic Rev TV is not about making money from people. It's about shining light on people. So I'm not asking people for a thing. I do a lot of free work. Drug overdose prevention, men's mental health, the Third Avenue cleanup. You get what I'm saying? Throwing events. We do that for free. So I'm not saying that, it's not good to make money from what you're doing. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that a lot of people that are providing us services, you got to really look into the work that they're doing, because that's how they're getting that money. And the only way for me, how I feel like I won't be sucked into none of those things, because I don't really aspire to be into the political life. I don't aspire to make more than my means. More money becomes more drama and more issues for somebody to then text exactly what she said. How you make this and now you're there? No, give me for what I work for.
Okay. Okay. Um, we've covered a lot of ground here, and I know this is basically an exclusive. I wish that the New York Times would come in and go, no, no, we can do it better, Mike. I wish CNN will watch this and go, we can do this better. We can ask better questions. I
I
hope
give
so.
out too much game for them. They won't like what
Uh,
I'm saying.
that's all right. You know what? I want them to show me up. Say that you've got the big studios throughout Manhattan and tens of millions of dollars. Come on up to the Bronx or invite Mr. Goodman down to Manhattan and show me how it's done. But I doubt they're going to do that because Black Republican. There you
I'll
go.
say this, right? If you could do me a favor, Michael,
Absolutely. What?
whoever wins in the Democratic primary, I'm willing to do a debate with them and me in front of the people. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna slander. I'll be of the best behavior, but I want to be able to let the people know. Look, when have you ever seen the Democrat stand next to a Republican or a conservative in a debate on a local level? They don't do it. Why? Because some part of me feel like, one, they're scared. Two, also I feel like, they're so secure in the vote and they feel like they already won, that they don't need to the competition. They don't need to talk. They could just sit back and the people are just gonna vote for them and nothing is gonna change. So, one of the things I challenge media to get them to come out, to get them to debate a young brother like me, and let's stand in front of these people and let's see who is the best candidate for the people. Win, lose, or draw.
Well, I always stand by. I think every elected office should have a debate. All of them. I've said that many times publicly. I've said it on my channel many, many times. And yes, I do believe that regardless of the parties, regardless of the money, you've gotten onto the ballot, you deserve an opportunity, one, to be heard, just like we're doing right now, and two, you to have a right to debate your opponent on the issues and the ideas and let the public decide. I've always agreed with that. You, I would be happy to either participate in or to provide a debate if the Democrats will accept it. They tend to hate me, so I don't know, but I would not be against that. I'd be happy to try and do that. And again, CNN, MSNBC, they think they can do it better. Fantastic. Show me up. Let them do it. I don't care. I just want it to happen. So I think that answers your question on that. But what we haven't answered for the public, and I think and again, we've covered a lot of ground here, but I do want to mention what is the best way. So people want to find out about your candidacy, they want to donate, either they want to volunteer to help raise awareness or they want to donate so you can get
So
ads because God knows the Democrats will. How do they do so?
Where so one thing about me, as me being this is my second election, one of the issues that, when it comes to the whole donating thing, I wouldn't mind people donating to me, but I really, instead of donating to me, get involved. Reach out to me about an issue that's going on so we can try to fix it, and let's try to bring attention and awareness to it. Because to me, I'm not about money. A lot of these people, they're running because they want the money. They need the money. And at the end of the day, for me, it's like, if I'm running, if my opponent sitting there could tell me I'm raising all this money and things like that, then who are you raising the money for? Because you can't use the money for personal.
No, not supposed to.
Right. So for me, raising money would do what? For me to expand my campaign. So I'm taking from the people that I'm trying to also say, hey, I know you're down and out. I know you're going through mental health. I know this and that. And I'm asking them for their money, knowing that
Oh,
we're all struggling. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we don't need the money for the campaign. But look, I was able to talk to you right now with no money.
of
I'm able to
course,
promote, and people are able to look at me with no money. If BBC and those media sites do their job, I will be able to get exposure without raising no money. Who was I'm raising the money for? I'm not saying that I don't have to. I'm not saying it won't help. But what I'm saying is that we got to sometimes look at some of these elected officials who base everything off of money. Me, I'm having an issue and I'm debating even if I should go that route. I might just be like, you know what, we don't need to do that. We're gonna promote and we're gonna be hands on and y'all gonna see my face. You don't gotta worry about me promoting because I'm gonna be at your event. I'm gonna be at your non for profit, and I'm everywhere in the city right now.
okay. And I know you've been at several events. I believe there's an event coming up on I think you're supposed to be at the Saturday event with Curtis
Correct,
Sliwa,
correct.
which is
That's
going
my
to be in
guy.
the Bronx at 11 a.m. It starts, if I remember
Correct,
correctly. So people will be able to see you there. So you have been at several events. I know December you were at a candidate event in the Bronx, which we did. I did cover that as well, and you were speaking to people there. So you have been quite a bit around. But I'm a little taken aback, I must say, because in 20 years of doing political commentary and events coverage of candidates, being a candidate myself, I've never heard of a politician who said, well, other than like Trump, I mean, billionaire, okay. But I mean, local races, regular people have not known anyone to say, maybe I don't want the donation. I want the people involved. I want the people, not the money. Uh, that surprises
if
me.
I get elected, they'll pay me. If I get elected, the government will pay me for doing the job for the people. I don't need to gum at the people money because listen, let me tell you something. What I noticed right now, the Democrats have a primary, right?
Yeah,
But yet and still, they're fighting for matching funds, right?
yeah.
You got the match, and I'm not against the matching funds program. I'm not against anybody who did it. But what I'm gonna say is gonna piss all of y'all off, and I'm gonna be very frank. For me, when you aim for matching funds, and that means you're getting a certain. Let me explain to people what matching funds is. You make 5,000, the government gives you another 5,000 on top of that to campaign. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that, but where are they getting that extra money from? The taxpaying dollars. So that means that now the taxpaying citizens is paid you twice for camp. Now, when after your election, if you don't win, where does that money go? Where happens to that money? And let me ask you, out of all the money that you're donating to these people when they don't win, ask yourself how many times do you see these same people donate or give back to the community with the same money that they use to fund their campaign? Not at all. Now, as a citizen, this was my vendetta. As a citizen, I always felt politicians was too focused on money and not helping. As a citizen, I always felt that it was always about a propaganda and a thing. So me getting into politics, not to say it like this, they kind of got the right one to where it's just like I didn't already like how certain things was moving. So part of my slogan is being the change I wish to see. Not saying that it's not good to raise money, but let's raise money for an issue. I don't need to raise money for promotion because I have a big mouth and I'm a likable guy and I move around a lot. But when it comes down to the people, I'd rather raise money to actually fix a problem than to promote myself. That's the type of person I am. Even in my business, is about promoting everybody else.
Okay. Um, Again, that's unique. Well, there's several things you said that are unique, and a different approach towards politics, and maybe that's exactly what we need. I mean, that's why we don't have a lot of youthful people in politics. They've been doing the same old thing, and we've been getting the same old response. Maybe we need someone doing something very different. But but is there a website or a social media where they can, like we were talking about,
Yes,
tracking you on Facebook? Some of the things you put there.
you you can see me on. I'm big on Instagram. Tyreek Tyereek underscore Goodman on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook, Tyreek. Goodman. We're still working on the website. I'm still working on that. And I gotta let everybody know too. When you're doing the campaign, and you're a first time candidate, nobody's gonna do nothing for you.
True.
Nobody's gonna put the work in for you. Nobody's gonna file paperwork for you. They'll help you probably petition, but that's the most. You'll get the parties to support in the endorsement, which is enough because at the end of the day, this is your candidacy and you must put in the work. So for me, I'm also being transparent, and I'm gonna also, while this election continues, I'm gonna be doing vlogs and stuff like that just to teach the people of the process of being a candidate because I think it's important.
Hmm? No,
So
I agree.
tune into. I'm gonna be having Tyreek Goodman on YouTube. So tune into my Facebook, tune into my Instagram, and this is not. We're gonna come. I'm gonna come back and talk to you again, my brother. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a couple of more issues. Like as you see,
Oh
I could
yeah.
talk for days.
Well, this is the introduction. This is to let people know that, again, I keep saying, ABC, CBS, that they're not paying attention. They're not doing the job. I have no problem doing it for them to let people know there is a choice, and they should be able to hear that choice and the issues, what's important, and then make a decision. So, yes, of course, I want you
Appreciate.
back on. And of course, I will follow this. And to be fair, the Democrat the challengers are more than welcome to come on and do an interview as well. I'm not partisan. I will do an interview with any candidate to let the public know. Just as I held you to, as I would hold you to the candle, I would hold them. Answer the question. Don't dodge. Tell me whatever the answer is. Tell the public so they know what they're voting for. Which you have done, and every question I've asked you told us what you think and your process, and I appreciate and thank you for that.
Thank you.
For the people who are watching this, I know people have watched this live. Not everyone knew we were going to go on, so maybe it's a little bit of a surprise. Not a problem. Take this video, share it with everyone you know, share it on every platform. Clip the parts, the answers to the questions, share that with everyone out there. Let people know that the choice is available, that Tyreek Goodman is running for the New York City Council, District 8, that there is a choice. And even if the mainstream media won't let you know anything about it, I am. So, and share that. Share it on out there. Let people know so that we have a fair and real election,
Right.
not a railroad kangaroo court, one party system.
Correct.
That being said, um, we've been on for about an hour and a half, which is, we had technical issues to get started, technical issues while we were going through it. So I appreciate and thank you
I
for working
appreciate
through
you,
those
man.
technology issues. And I thank you for the interview as well. Terry Goodman, I want you to have a great evening. I hope you're going to have a great campaign. We will have you
Thank
back
you.
on not too long from now,
Right.
and my technology will be better then. But until then, I want to thank you. I want you to have a great day, okay?
Peace and love, y'all.